So, Vidyaranya, the great master, has written this text almost 700 or 800 years. He summarized that this mindfulness or meditation is a non practice. It demands a clear understanding of who we are. Because we are subjective reality, and the science focuses on the objective reality. So we are not as much concerned about how many elements we have, what are the different shades of the matter. We have 108 elements or 110. We are not concerned about it. We are only concerned about what is the subjective reality. Who am I? So when we want to know who am I, the mind should stop objectification of this world. The moment we go outside in the world, it is measurable, it is quantifiable, but the very existence cannot be quantified. Consciousness cannot be quantified. So what happens that every time we wake up in the morning, we become aware, and the mind goes out in the world and it starts the objectification, quantifying. Where is kitchen? Where is bedroom? Where is my house? You see that how the body looks like, what happens to the body, all are measurable and quantifiable. So unless this mind cannot get rid of this quantification, we cannot find the real self. And there comes the question, do I live wisely? So here the wisely means that I discern. I am in the state of a dispassion, an observer. And when I live into that state of being wise in my thought, speech, and action, mind objectifies, but it does not create a problem. Objectified because here is a door and here is a wall, so I cannot go through the wall. So that level of awareness remains intact. That is not causing any problem. What is causing the problem is our lack of awareness, our anxiety, our duality, our conflict, our hatred, our jealousy. So in Eastern wisdom, we do not take this hatred, jealousy has to do at the level of ethical discipline. We say, no, it does not keep the mind purified. Hence, we have to get rid of it. So every time this mind goes back and it says, who am I? Intellectually, we understand that it is pure consciousness, but we are triggering the mind not to go to the world of name and the form, but go back to the source, from where the source. So how many times we are upset, anxious, reactive, outside? It simply means the mind inside colored the outer situation, people, event, and the thing. Situation does not chase me. Situation does not declare that, I have a adverse situation. The person doesn't say, you see that, I will make you crazy. The person never says that. Any person. But my interpretation, my coloring in the mind makes me so. And I lose awareness. The moment I lose awareness, then I start blaming and complaining, and all kinds of stuff starts in our day-to-day life. So that point of awareness has to be clear. So you see that one, the situation, the world is outside, means situation is created by the time, location, and the person or an object. The moment I say this mouse is white, at this moment, at this location, I have color. So this coloring is not creating any problem. What we are talking about. Do you remember the metaphor? The four stages of manifestation. So now you see that the outer is the fourth stage of manifestation. Mind interpretation is the third stage, and we stop there. We do not go deeper inside. We live a surface life. Huh? You made me crazy, you are reactive, I don't want to talk to you, and it's a long list. So that means that I'm not living wisely. So now living wisely and living unwisely has to do with the last two stages of manifestation. Do you remember? Huh? The fourth stage of manifestation is the world outside, and the third stage is my subtle body, the mind. So this mind does not leave those impressions created from the world as if we think that my stress and suffering is responsibility lies outside, but it is not so. It is not so. No person, no event, no situation, no time, no location is ever responsible for my sorrow and suffering. But why I feel that? Why I experience that? I experience because of the third, the causal stage, where we have an accumulated impressions. What is the causal body? Causal body simply means ignorance. So when the mind says you are responsible for my stress and suffering, it is only because of the ignorance entering into the mind, looking at the world. Are you getting it? Did I make a statement clear? I'm just explaining the metaphor because once we are again clear and 100% clear about the metaphor, it explains the entire journey of the self-discovery. I see you. The mind colors what coloring is okay and what coloring is not okay. Now see that. Here is Stephen. So the mind instantly picks up the coloring. What is the coloring? Gender, color, shape, name, form. And there is no problem. There is no problem. But what happens when it colors with the blame, complaint, reaction, anxiety, being upset? So my mind inside has given an interpretation, and then it says that the outside world is the cause of my suffering. Then I forget the third stage. That is the causal body. I'm in ignorance. Master declares, I'm in ignorance. No one outside can be the cause of my stress and suffering, even for my peace and happiness. So that is the causal stage. So these two, middle two, the mind plus the ignorance pushed into the mind by the causal body, creates my world of people, things, and it keeps on nagging me. It keeps on reacting inside. Now the person has gone and my mind is still reacting. So I'm increasing my level of ignorance. So you see that, we are trying to understand why this master has created these four stages of manifestation. So this is what leads to the lack of awareness because the mind. So there the master says that the knowledge is realized in stages. Take the same example of the farmer plows the field, sows the seed, water it, put the fertilizer. What it does after that? Waits. That waiting period is emptiness. That waiting period, I'm not doing anything. I'm in a state of doing nothing. And then what happens? The seed converts into a sapling. Sapling becomes a tree, flower, and the fruits. This is how the manifestation in meditation takes place. Initial preparation is definitely necessary. And initial preparation is necessary because we have to be a seeker. We have to transition to become a seeker. But once we are a seeker, then we understand. Then it becomes totally a non-practice. So when I say that Saturday session is a non-practice, for a non-seeker, I'm speaking a lie for a non-seeker. But for a seeker, I'm speaking the truth. My master used to say that this real self lies in between the paradox logic. It lies in between the practice and the non-practice. So we have to clearly understood. We have to clearly understand that how we say the knowledge is realized in stages and it is a non-practice. The mind that colored me, my own mind has colored me about a perception about any person outside. So what I have to do, I have to simply become aware of that. I need not to control them. I need not to remove it because it is not there. Are you getting it? If a person, I name it as crazy, that very craziness is not present in that person. It is my perception. That is happening in the mind because of the ignorance. There are four stages. One is pure consciousness, and after that is the causal stage, the ignorance stage, then it is the mind, and then it is the world outside of the name and the form. So between the two, something happens, and that colors. So I colored it. My mind has colored it. So I don't color it, so I'm okay. So whenever I'm okay, means I'm in the non-practice. I'm in the non-practice. Another part that we should understand before we go deeper from the next week, the knowledge is realized in stages. Why we say that? One factor we have understood. The second one, that when we see the world through the sense organ, it does not take time. We get it. The knowledge from the sense organ, I hear the noise, I feel the sense of the touch, I see you physically. The body with the name and the form, it's okay. That is first outermost instrument of knowledge. There are many instruments of knowledge. Huh? Eyes are instrument of knowledge by which we see the name and the form. Ears are the instrument of knowledge by which we hear the sound. Eyes cannot hear. Ears cannot see. Skin cannot see. Are you seeing that? Are you aware of that? So our master, this master is very subtle, extra intelligent. So especially putting the things in a language, he says one instrument of knowledge can give me one type of knowledge. Clear? Did you understand? Eyes give me the knowledge of the name and the form. Ears can give me the knowledge of the sound, and so on. It is 100% clear that the eyes cannot give me the knowledge of the sound. So keep that understanding in your head and move ahead. Then what is that instrument that can give me the knowledge of the real self? You see the logic, the reasoning. One thing is clear, that the eyes are the instruments of the knowledge that can give me the knowledge of the word of name and the form especially. Form and the color I can recognize through my eyes. So one type of instrument and one type of knowledge. But there is one condition. And there all the ignorance goes away. What is that condition? The eyes and the thing that I see should have similar properties. Did you get it? No. Mouse, white in color, and the shape, if the form is there. So this should have, any object that I can see through the eyes should have similar properties. The eyes have a property to see the form and the color, and it is white in color, it has a form. Same way, ears must have a similar properties so that it can hear the sound. You got it? Eyes, ears, etc., etc., etc. So now I want to know the real self. So the instrument of knowledge should have the similar properties of the real self. Clear? Real self is of the nature of consciousness. Are there two consciousness in the world? Or there is only one consciousness? There is only one. So the real self has to know the real self by itself. Are you getting it? We're trying to go a little deeper. So once we are 100% clear that this real self can only be known by the real self, self knows the self by itself. That is why the Buddha says, be light unto yourself. Unto yourself. I have to be light to myself. What is the light? That light is the consciousness. So he uses the one self, and another light is for the sake of the real self. Did you get it? We should have a similar properties, but mind is a matter. Mind cannot see the real self, mind cannot realize the real self. And the mind has created a problem. Mind has created a veil. That is why we are not able to realize the real self. But why? Mind is objectified. Mind is engaged in all the thoughts, feeling, and the images at the subtler level. So when we calm down the mind, we bring the mind to a point of nothingness. Nothingness means no objects. Then this mind becomes a transparent mirror, and then it reflects the real self. So, in a traditional language, we say the sense organs are the instruments of the knowledge by which we see the physical world. Mind is a subtle instrument by which we see, feel, experience the thought, feeling, and the images. But the mind cannot see the real self because mind is a matter. Hence, we have to calm down the mind completely to reach to a state of nothingness. And there we wait like the farmer waiting after the initial preparation. Huh? I gave the, no, I'm connecting it. So we reach to, so that waiting is a non-practice. I'm waiting, I'm doing nothing. When the farmer is waiting, then he is just sitting in the field and he's waiting there. No, he's doing everything in his life. And then he perceives, it sprouts, the sapling is there. So that is what the knowledge of the real self reveals itself. Because the journey of the self discovery is subtler than the mind and the intellect, subtler than the mind and intellect, and that is where we have to use the metaphor. You see, the science also uses the metaphor. What is atom and electron and proton and neutron? They create animations. All these are metaphors. Now you have to just imagine that this guy who lived 800 years ago, he uses the metaphor. He says, no, I will explain you through the metaphor. 800 years ago. Modern science was not there. Modern science is 100, 200, 250 years old. Then you should remember, and that will help us to uh, move forward. So this metaphor, I explained one thing. The metaphor are identical, but we have to explore what is real and what is unreal. When I stand before the mirror, image is identical. Me outside and the image in the mirror are identical, but one is real and one is unreal. So what has happened because of the causal body? And then I will come down to the metaphor. So because of the causal body, our mind takes for granted the mirror image is the real. And then we start suffering from it. Now, have you seen that the dog and the cats, even the tiger, when you put them before the mirror, they start fighting as if, no, you are different. I have to fight. That is also one level of ignorance. But here, our level of ignorance is little different because we are not able to. We live with this body, sense organ, and the mind, and we feel this is what the reality is. So the master instantly points out, you have a causal body, you have a subtle body, and you have a physical. So what we have to do, we are hypnotized Mind is heavily conditioned culturally, socially, otherwise. So this we have to dehypnotize. So the moment we say we have to dehypnotize, we have not to do anything. We have to understand how this mind has been hypnotized and mind is hypnotizing the life. And a great metaphor that proves it real. Metaphor explaining everything is nothing but the spider. Spider exists, we use the metaphor. So spider exists and then it brings forth the silken thread from its body, creates a web, after which it goes and sits and enjoys. That is what is the phenomenal word in the three stages. The first one is pure consciousness. One thing is wonderful about the spider is not caught in its own web. We are caught in our own web. That is what the ignorance is. We are caught. We grow, we are single. I'm unhappy being single. So I get married now, I'm getting related. So I have the kids. And now I see, no, I should not have done this. I've already created such a web around me. So it is not that whether we remain single or get married, that has not that it's not a problem. But I don't see that ignorance. I'm caught in my own web. That is the problem. So with that clarity and understanding, the first is we see that it is a white cloth, clear. So we start our metaphor with understanding and then we see the application. That cloth is nothing but the pure consciousness. Then it is starched. It is the causal stage. So that starch compared with the spider. The spider has a power to bring forth the silken thread to create a web all around him. Same way, this causal stage is totally starched. That is the meaning of the causal body. Causal body is made up of out of ignorance. And the third stage is the subtle, the mind. The sketching is done what needs to be done. And the fourth stage is the painting. Even, even in our picture, we take this selfie and we say, oh, what a beautiful nature that I captured. You see, nature is one behind your selfie, you and your honey or other friends of you. They are wearing the different clothes. They appear. That is how we recognize. Here I am. Here is my friend. In the background, there is a sea, and then there is a you can say this. Now, see, we recognize the 4, 5 different things, but it is only one on the canvas. Are you getting it? That is the subject matter of the next week session. Consciousness is one, cloth is one. Then it passes through a casual stage, it passes through a subtle stage. Now I see that in that painting, I am there, You are there. Sea is there. Beach is there. Do you see? They are all are different on the same canvas. Canvas is one. How I become different from you? Can you visualize it? How I become different from you? We all are appearing different, but how we appear different is what ignorance is. Perceived by the mind coming from the second causal stage. But we all are painted in one canvas. Canvas does not change. I'm leaving you with that question. Constantly think that how my mind sees me and honey are different, me and my son are different, and etc. etc. Long list. Just become an observer and see how they are different, how it appears different. Are they really different? The greatest ignorance that I see, I and you are different and separate. Close your eyes and adjust and align the body. They should be very clear about the initial preparation. Obviously, we have to do something, but after that, and what is the initial preparation? Adjust and align the body. Even if you say closing the eyes is definitely a step of doing something, okay, we accept it. Knowledge is realized in stages. Remember during the entire journey today that what the farmer does after applying the field, watering, fertilizing, and then he sits calmly. By closing the eyes or any action, the moment the mind says, no, after all, I'm doing a practice, it should not promote an attachment. Now come to, I have been talking about being comfortable. So being comfortable and becoming comfortable are two things. Being comfortable, you are. Becoming comfortable, you have to take an action. The mind divides, perceives, projects, and then it says this projection of being discomfort has to be removed. So what I'm saying that you have to do nothing. You are aware. You are neither moving to comfort nor moving to discomfort. So what you find? You are being comfortable. You are in a state of awareness. This is what I'm saying. Like pendulum, one side of the pendulum, the mind says I'm uncomfortable. Other side it says I'm comfortable against the comfort, discomfort. So when we have a pain, we run after the pleasure. And the pleasure makes us obsessed, results into pain, then we escape, we find the pain. Understood. Okay, so I'm looking at the neck joint. I'm aware, looking and aware has nothing to do with it. I'm aware, I can say, if to explain. Awareness is there, knowledge is there, and experience is natural. Sensation, comfort, and steadiness. sense. Now you see the sensation, skin, the outer instrument of skin of touch. Comfort is subtle, comes from the mind. Steadiness, mind cannot be steady, so how we can think that the mind brings that steadiness? And that steadiness comes from deeper within. That is to be known, that is to be recognized. What do you mean by known and recognized? You are simply aware. You're not doing a practice. Check that when I give a long pause, is your mind jumping on one thought and the other, or expecting something more? That comes from the causal body. You have a clear recognition. You see, our masters are so clear. You are not doing anything. You are in a state of non-practice. Now see, apply the same thing, you will find out. Shoulder joints, you're looking, you're aware. Sensation, I explained you. The instrument, physical instruments knows the sensation. Subtle instruments knows that comfort, recognized. But the very steadiness comes from deeper within. So at least your mind, you're aware of the different layers. So we can easily understand that metaphor. So now you're not doing anything, but some sensation, something pops up. Some I don't want to say hesitation, but in the mind we find when we give a pause, I'm not saying anything, just watch. In a state of doing nothing, something pops up. That gives the heat and the thought to the mind, coming from the causal body. That popping up elements in the mind keeps the mind outside, engaged in the world, in the fourth stage, and that is causing the ignorance. That uncomfort when I'm not speaking, and that uncomfort when I'm speaking, coming from the deeper than the mind, causal body. Now I'm not speaking, There is a pause. You remain in that state. We are recognizing these four stages. Comfort means I am at ease. Let us go deeper into being carefree, free from all the cares of the mind. That is what is the meaning of carefree. Mind cares us only because of impurity and projection and desires. How mind cares by thought, feeling, and action. How many thoughts, feeling, and actions during the day really cares all of us or causes more challenges? Suddenly a thought pops up against a person, and we keep that impression throughout the day. Today is not a good day. So that is why being carefree, we are an observer. We are simply aware of the unwelcome thoughts that is coming and going and staying and leaving. Why? To explore what lies in my causal body. Where lies all the impressions resulting into ignorance. See the thought, I express that knowledge, and you have to become aware. You are not, you have not decided to think, but the thought comes. So they are unwelcome thoughts, uninvited. Let them come and go. So when I don't categorize them good and bad, painful and pleasurable thoughts, who categorizes? The intellect that is dictated by the mind. I have to do nothing. This thought is good or this thought is bad, negative or positive, pessimism or optimism, pain or pleasure, duality. You are simply aware, if I say so. You are simply a witness. You are simply an observer or a knower. Knower. You are carefree. You know, when I say you, here, you is simply a consciousness that has nothing to do with attachment or detachment. But I claim you in the mind, I in the mind. I have a lot of thoughts, bad thoughts, and good thoughts. All four are present. All four stages are present here. Being carefree. So if I say I'm aware, unwanted, unwelcome thought has entered, just watch. Become aware. Be aware. Unwanted, unwelcome thought enters, or feeling or image. Obviously, it is coming from the causal. Yes, being expressed in the mind. So these two stages are known. The moment any unwelcome thought comes, the mind then is ready to translate that into an action through the body. But we are keeping the body steady. Have a clear understanding, not by force. Casually, we are comfortable. Sensation, comfort, and steadiness is already there. So, because the steadiness is maintained, mind becomes an observer of all the thoughts. No thought can cause any worry, anxiety, pleasure, duality. You have separated it. And that is what is being carefree. So being comfortable, yes. Non-practice. Being carefree, non-practice. So the metaphor of the farmer, we have reached to a stage where the farmer is waiting for the seed to convert into a sapling. So we are totally comfortable, not only comfortable, carefree, we are casual, at ease. Mind is running, but you are at ease. Body stays there, you are at ease. That you has to do more with the deeper layer than your body and the mind. So in a traditional practice, we say when we are at ease, mind moving within and living within. I'm aware the mind is living within, moving within is nothing but the witness. So we again understand what is this witness. Thought enters the mind and you are at ease. Awareness, knowledge, and experience. You have that. Not carried away by any thought, feeling, images that pops up in the mind. Let us make it little more clear. You are a witness. You are not a desirer. The moment any thought pops up in the mind, the same mind creates a desire that prompts me to act. So instead of a desire, these thoughts are coming and going. I'm a witness. So when I'm a witness, no desire, so no action. Farmer, no action, waiting. You're living within. You might be feeling suddenly a thought pops up, even a sensation pops up. At ease, nothingness is there. But still, we feel some presence is there, and that presence is the inner self, the first manifestation. First is the pure consciousness, and the second is what we say the causal. Causal, should not always think and know that it is always negative. No, other side is the inner self. Then the subtle body, you have a feeling, thought, images, and other experiences. They are happening in the subtle body. And then we have a physical body. After plowing the field, watering, putting fertilizer and seed, the farmer does not jump onto the field again. No, 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 I have to do it again. No, that is what happens in our day to day life. We miss. Are we at ease? Yes. Comfortable? Yes. Carefree? Yes. Then what happens? I am saying what happens. I'm not saying what you do. Mind moves within, lives within. Observer is clear. That observer is a witness. Knower is not carried away by anything. The moment it carried away, you will fall into action. Then it becomes a practice. Then you are struggling. So no struggle. You know that I lives in the fourth stage. Then I am Stephen, Brandy, etc., etc. I live in the third stage, the subtle mind, ignorance. I live in the causal stage, ignorance. I live in the first stage of manifestation, or your consciousness. I merges with the consciousness. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand. On the left hand, lift your both the palms, place it on your eyes, open the eyes inside. Know your experiences, bring the hands down, we'll share our experience. Also share your experiences during the entire week. How are you, Stephen?
I'm good. Thank you. I always enjoy the metaphors and your logical approach to our lessons. Um, it coincides to the way I have to learn. Um, this was a week of living wisely. I've contemplated and reflected a lot this week. In continuation of our conversation on Wednesday, meditation on Thursday. These last couple of days have been really great because I've really looked at becoming the observer. Just like today's meditation, just be the observer. And I recognize thoughts came through. but it was meaningless, and I couldn't repeat a single one of them right now. Um, um, what I've noted, what I'm grasping more than ever is this process, and then and taking it slowly and understanding. I've said it before: the metaphor of the canvas and what we've just talked about, the four stages of manifestation. I realized this week that you got to start with that outer layer of life itself and all the people around you, and they have no effects on me. It's me allowing them to have the effects and create my sorrow and suffering and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then work coming inside. And I think in the last 48 hours or so, I've really become an observer and not letting anything in the outside bother me. So can't tell you if I'm at stage 3 or stage 2. I know I'm trying to get to stage 1, but we'll get there when it happens. So thank you.
It's a beautiful narration and explanation. It's a self-explanation. I think everyone has heard it. So this is what is the more, and you see that, I do not want to make a wrong statement that today we did only 3 practice. When we are not doing any practice, a non-practice, so there are not 2 or 3 steps. But I covered only being comfortable and being carefree. That results into being a witness and observer. How are you, David and Jerry?
Thank you, sir. The non-practice today was just really wonderful. I extremely enjoyed the discussion beforehand, and through the meditation, for me, I had these phenomenally deep moments, and a thought or sensation would come up when I'd bounce out of it, but very quickly I was right back in that deep moment, and I think I'm starting to see my sprouts, if that makes sense.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. And that you might have been feeling the changes in your personal, professional, and social lives. The way you have started responding, that is where the sprouts, they start manifesting. Beautiful. How are you, Jerry?
Sir, I'm good. Namaste. Thank you. Just a beautiful lesson. So deep, and the meditation for me. When you said the gap or the space or the pause, that's such a sweet spot. That space, the space between the breath, the space between the thoughts, the constant pause. If we can kind of be in that constant pause, right? And our mind is like, the mind is the instrument, and sometimes we say we have to work on the mind when it's being crazy, right? Blaming, complaining, creating suffering for us, or we allow it to. Then we know, but I used to think that you needed to replace that. And I think that we do, right? We do need to replace it with the real, the consciousness, and know that it's just that ignorance. But I used to, sometimes we think we need to replace negative with positive. And we that's a problem. That's just another label. So anyway.
Beautiful. That is the way. You see that, what Jerry is explaining. This is just a palm. So I put my finger here and pause. But where the pause is happening, it is happening in the palm. The palm is one. It is pure consciousness. Now I'm using the same metaphor. It's a pure consciousness. So the mind is faking it is pause, but fact is that it is not. It is one everlasting, real self. How are you, Vaibhav?
So I'm good. It was deep. It's like that my calmness, my peace is actually not dependent on the thoughts that I'm having, but it is always there. And then I'm having these thoughts, but it's behind that I'm always at peace. I'm always at calm.
Beautiful. One thing that everyone should contemplate and reflect, He said the thought is there, but it is not disturbing. Can you exist without a thought? We have to think. Normally, what we think, meditation, mindfulness, that you shut off all the thoughts. No, not at all. But I'm totally separate and different from these thoughts and the feelings and the images. That needs to be understood clearly. Beautiful. How are you, Brandy?
I'm good, thank you. I'm taking in everything that everyone said because I've had little pieces of all of it. But I spent most of my meditation, my non-practice, that was kind of a practice of looking at stages 1 and 2 today and seeing where they're different. Because you said some things that got me thinking. I recognize I was thinking, but like is stage 2 the mind, the intellect, and the causal body, and then is stage 1 the other side of the causal body, and just trying to kind of create that space there because my mind is, I've shared this a lot over the last almost 2 years. My mind's super active.
Oh.
And I know that, right? I see it. I don't just have thoughts pop up. My mind is like hamster wheel. So if I can separate. So it was just kind of being in that space, kind of like Vaibhav said behind it, so.
I'm very happy you all have started talking of the 4 stages. So definitely we can move further. But even when the mind is super active, it has nothing to do with the consciousness. You may have millions of waves in an ocean. Nothing happens to the water. Water does not change, it remains H2O. It does not become HCl, hydrochloride. That awareness is required. The moment we are settled there, we are there. And then as David was saying, the sprout starts moving. You look at a person and you see that your mind perceives that person is upset. But that does not make you upset. Let me take an example of a honey. Observer, yes, come, okay. Sometimes your mind says, let my honey, you become upset as much as possible. But I'm not going to be upset. That is what the sprout is. Wonderful sharing of experiences, anesthesia. I mistake it. Anesthesia or anesthesia?
Whatever.
Whatever.
It was very
Go ahead.
very calm and deep meditation. Thank you very much. And very deep lesson. Totally absorbed. And during the week, I think I finally allowed myself to be separated, not only with the world outside, but also with my inner inside world. Like if before I could just watch the outside world, but inside of me the war was happening with my feelings and thoughts, and now I allowed myself to watch also separately on my thoughts and feelings, and just to watch them.
That's a progress. That's a very good thing. I think everyone has understood this point is very important. The guy is outside and the guy is crazy. Intellectually, I may think that I should not get upset, but the turbulence is there in the mind. I hold back. And the other, I'm not holding back. Mind is simply an observer. It is not affecting me. So you start communicating like this and you will see a tremendous change in your life. So how are you, Ashok?
Namaste, sir.
Namaste, sir.
Sir, doing well, and throughout the week, contemplation and reflection was going on, and living wisely. Both,
Living wise. How
uh,
many times you were upset during the last week?
in the last week, I didn't count, but there were so many times.
So many times.
But
Yeah.
I came to know that now I am going to change, and I have observed that thing. I got disturbed, so
Yeah.
after that I corrected it, and that's there's so much progress in that.
Very good. You see what he said. I love it, repeating it, that normally we live habitually, impulsively, instinctively, means that we are living in ignorance, so much so that we do not know we got upset. Our upset is so mechanical and over so habitual. We take it for granted.
Mhm.
Why shouldn't I be upset? You make me upset. I have taken it. It's so heavy conditioning. It's a kind of you can say I'm so much hypnotized by
Mhm.
myself. I'm caught in the web. If I'm a spider, I created the web and I'm caught in the web. And then we blame the world outside, leaders out. I'm not going there into the leaders. I need not to blame. I want peace and happiness. Very good. I'm so happy. So we'll move ahead. Thank you. That is all for today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, sir.
Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank
Namaste.
you.